Chapter 1. The Job Posting. Eva Monroe sat at the tiny dining table in Hirqually tiny studio apartment, her chipped mug of lukewarm coffee untouched. Her laptop screen flickered as she scrolled through endless nanny job listings. Most paid peanuts. A few offered decent rates but required certification she didn't have, and the rest were flat-out scams. Her rent was due in 2 days. Her savings, what little remained, had dried up after her mother's last hospital visit. And the clock was ticking. The ticking, in fact, was literal. Her thrift store wall clock let out a clunky talk every second, as if it were mocking her slow spiral into desperation. Eva sighed, brushing a lock of chestnut brown hair out of her face. She clicked refresh one. Last time, more out of habit than hope, and then she saw it. Living Nanny wanted discreet, dedicated, and flexible. Location confidential transport provided salary $10,000 per month. Child 4-year-old girl nonverbal previously homeschooled. Requirements: no criminal record, no current ties, must sign NDA. Preferences: experience preferred but not required. Urgent hire, serious applicants only. Eva blinked. $10,000 a month. Her eyes darted over the listing again, searching for the scammy red flags. No weird requests, no upfront fees, no promises of working for a royal family in a country she'd never heard of. Just an outrageous offer. She clicked the Apply Now button. The application form was short. She submitted her resume, typed up a brief cover letter, and hesitated at the final line. "Why do you believe you're the right fit for this position?" Eva stared at the blinking cursor. "Because I have nothing left to lose." She deleted that, opting for something more presentable. "Because I'm passionate about caring for children and adapt quickly to new environments." She hit send. Within 10 minutes, her phone rang. "Hello?" she answered, startled. A smooth male voice responded, "Miss Monroe." "Yes, my name is Victor. I represent the Blackthorne estate. We received your application." Blackthorne. Why did that name sound familiar? "We would like to conduct an in-person interview this evening. A call will be sent to your address in 1 hour. Tonight. I thought your profile was flagged by Mr. Blackthorne himself. We do not delay once interest is confirmed." That left Eva speechless. She barely managed to mutter a yes before the line went dead. 1 hour later, a sleek black SUV pulled up outside her apartment. The driver wore black gloves and a tailored suit. "Miss Monroe." "Yes," she said, gripping her purse tighter than necessary. "Please," he gestured for her to enter the car. "Mr. Blackthorne is waiting." The city lights faded behind them as the car sped toward the outskirts of town, then deep into the forested hills. Eva realized they were heading into the private estates, places reserved for tech billionaires, old money, or the super mysterious. And, apparently, Dominic Blackthorne. After what felt like forever, the trees parted to reveal a mansion. Scratch that. A castle 3 stories high with arched windows, black wrought iron balconies, and tall gates that whispered old power and serious wealth. As the car stopped, 2 tall men in black suits opened the double doors. No one said a word. Eva's boots clicked loudly against the marble as she stepped inside the grand foyer. A chandelier glittered above her like a frozen constellation. Her eyes darted to the staircase, wide, curved, and leading into shadows. "Miss Monroe," a voice, deep and cold, echoed through the space. She turned and saw him. Dominic Blackthorne stood at the top of the staircase like Aspector sculpted from stone. Tall, broad shoulders, jet black hair combed back with surgical precision. His eyes, icy gray, nearly silver, locked onto hers with unnerving intensity. He descended 1 slow step at a time. His black dress shirt unbuttoned just enough to reveal the defined muscles of his chest, a sharp jaw, a mouth that looked like it rarely smiled, and an aura of command that hit her like a storm. "You're early," he said. "That's a good sign." Eva blinked. I was told to come at." He raised a hand, silencing her. "Come with me. No pleasantries, no handshake, no fake interview niceties." He turned and walked down a long corridor, and she followed, pulse studding in her throat. The room he led her into was warm, lined with books and mahogany shelves. A fire crackled in the hearth. On a velvet chaise sat a small child, curly-haired, pale-skinned with wide blue eyes. She held a plush rabbit and stared at Eva with the watchful stillness of a deer. "This is Liliana," Dominic said. "She doesn't speak. She doesn't trust easily, and she's not normal." Eva knelt, trying to appear calm despite the odd warning. "Hi, Liliana. I'm Eva." The girl tilted her head slightly but said nothing. Dominic's voice was close behind her now. "If she accepts you, you're hired." Eva turned, heart skipping. Just like that. "Yes," he said, his voice quieter. "I don't care about degrees or references. I care about instincts." She stared into his eyes, and for a moment she felt something ancient stir beneath his gaze. Animal, cold, possessive. It wasn't lust. It wasn't warmth. It was claiming. Liliana came forward and reached for Eva's hand, softly, carefully. Dominic's expression didn't change, but Eva noticed the way his shoulders dropped slightly, like he'd been holding his breath. "She chose you," he said simply. "You start tomorrow. Wait, don't you want to ask me anything? Where I'm from? What experience I—" "No," Dominic interrupted, stepping closer. "Because none of that will matter," he said softly, almost like a warning. "Not when the moon rises." Eva shivered. Later that night, Eva stood in a guest bedroom fit for royalty. She looked out at the forest from the large arched window, the moon glowing high above. The mansion was quiet, too quiet. She remembered Dominic's eyes, the way they pierced through her like silver blades. This wasn't a normal job. He wasn't a normal man. And whatever this place was hiding, it had already claimed her. Chapter 2. The Interview. The next morning, Eva woke to the gentle rustle of leaves outside her window and a sense of being watched. She turned her head. Liliana stood in the doorway, silent, her large blue eyes fixed on her. She held her rabbit plushie tightly to her chest, fingers curled around its stitched paw. "Hey there," Eva said, pushing off the thick comforter and sitting up. "Did you sleep okay?" Liliana nodded once, the motion slight. "I'll be out in just a second," Eva added with a smile. "Promise." The little girl turned and padded away quietly, her small feet barely making a sound on the stone floor. Eva let out a long breath. Was this really happening? She was still trying to wrap her head around the whirlwind of the last 12 hours. The grand guest suite she'd been given was bigger than her entire apartment. The bathroom alone was the size of her previous kitchen and living room combined with a soaking tub that looked like it belonged in a 5-star spa. Her suitcase had been brought up while she was sleeping, already unpacked into the walk-in wardrobe by someone she hadn't seen. She dressed quickly in a soft sweater and black jeans. Simple, non-threatening, practical, nanny mode. The hallway outside was flooded with morning light pouring through high-arched windows. Paintings lined the walls, portraits of solemn-faced men with intense eyes, each bearing a resemblance to Dominic Blackthorne. Old money, definitely, or old something. Eva found Liliana waiting at the end of the corridor, standing near a door slightly ajar. "She wants you to see her playroom," said a voice from behind. Eva turned sharply. Dominic stood with a glass of something dark in one hand, dressed in an open black shirt and slacks. Even in daylight, he looked every bit as dangerous and controlled Ash had the night before. "She doesn't usually let anyone in there," he continued. "Not even the last nanny." Eva blinked. "What happened to the last one?" Dominic's mouth twitched, just shy of a smirk. "She left. Couldn't handle the isolation." He tilted his head. "You don't seem bothered by it." Eva shrugged. "I've been alone most of my life. Solitude isn't the worst thing in the world." "Good," he said, stepping aside. "Because this estate is private. No visitors, no distractions. Everything you need will be provided. But once you're here, you're here." The warning in his voice was subtle, but it landed. Eva nodded slowly. "Understood." "Good," he repeated. "Then breakfast is in the solarium." The solarium looked like something out of a fairy tale. Glass walls, vines climbing the outer frame, and light cascading down in golden rays. A long table was set with food, fresh croissants, fruit, cheeses, and steaming tea. Eva barely had time to appreciate it when Dominic strode in and took the seat at the head of the table. He motioned for her to sit beside him. Liliana chose the spot across from them, placing her rabbit gently on the table as though he too was ready for a formal meal. "Do you have any questions for me, Miss Monroe?" Dominic asked, cutting into a blood orange with surgical precision. Eva hesitated, then nodded. Yes, I know this is an unconventional position, but I'd like to understand what's expected of me beyond the obvious childcare. Dominic chewed slowly, watching her like a predator, assessing prey. Your role is simple. Protect Liliana. Teach her. Be kind to her. She has special needs. Eva glanced at the child, who was gently arranging her fruit slices into a pattern. She seems very smart, Eva said. And gentle she is, Dominic replied. But she is also my daughter, which means she is being watched always. Not just by me, but by others. Not everyone approves of how I raise her or who she is. Eva echoed. What does that mean? Dominic set down his fork. You'll understand in time. Eva swallowed hard. This man spoke in riddles and half-truths, and yet she felt strangely compelled to trust him. He continued, his voice lowering. You'll be given full access to the Eastern Wing, Liliana's rooms, the Learning Center, the gardens, but the West Wing is off limits. Eva frowned. Why? He looked her dead in the eyes. Because you won't leave the same way you entered. The air seemed hostile. Eva opened her mouth, then closed it. She'd dealt with guarded clients before. Rich families hiding scandals, overprotective single parents, even paranoid actors. But this was different. There was no performance here. Dominic meant every word, and that terrified her. After breakfast, Eva followed Liliana to her playroom, which turned out to be more of an enchanted library than anything else. Floor-to-ceiling shelves filled with children's books in every language. Walls painted like a forest, twinkling lights on the ceiling mimicking stars. Liliana picked up a picture book and sat on the floor, patting the spot beside her. Eva joined her, smiling. Let's read her. They turned page after page in silence. And though Liliana never spoke, she traced the words with her fingers, mouthing some of them. It was clear she could read. And maybe more. You're a clever one, Eva whispered. Liliana looked up at her and for the first time smiled. Later that afternoon, Eva wandered the gardens alone while Liliana napped. She found herself near a wrought iron gate locked with thick chains. It stood between the eastern wing's manicured rose bushes and the darkened western wing of the mansion. Beyond it, the path curved into the trees, thick, tangled, wild. She heard something then. Not wind, not birds, a growl low, primal, close. She stepped back, and then she saw eyes silvered just like Dominic's watching her from the shadows beyond the gate. But they weren't human. She fled, heart racing. That night, Dominic appeared at her door. He didn't knock. He just opened it and stood there tall and shadowed. I trust the day went well, he said. Eva nodded. Your daughter's amazing. She's gentle, curious, but she seems scared of something. Dominic's jaw tightened. The world outside this estate is not kind to those like her. Eva didn't press. But he continued. She's half shifter, half human, a rare thing. Dangerous to some, sacred toothers. Eva blinked. Wait, shifter, you mean? Dominic stepped into the room. The light caught his irises. They gleamed like liquid silver. I mean, I'm not what you think I am, he said. Eva's breath caught. Your job is more than care, he continued. It's protection. And if you stay, Eva, you'll be caught in a world that doesn't let people go easily. He turned about to leave, but paused. I chose you because Liliana responded to you. But now that you're here, understand something. His voice dropped. I don't share what's mine. Then he vanished into the hallway, leaving Eva breathless and trembling, not from fear, but from the chilling thrill that crept down her spine. Chapter 3, First Impressions. The moon hung high above the manor, casting a cold silver glow over the estate. Butte inside, warmth flickered from the crackling fireplaces and soft lamplights, giving the illusion of safety, a sharp contrast to the shadows Eva had seen beyond the locked gates. She tossed in her bed. The sheets twisted around her legs, sleep eluding her. Dominic's words from earlier haunted her thoughts. She's half shifter, half human. I don't share what's mine. What the hell did she get herself into? She was a nanny, not some paranormal bodyguard. She had come here to care for a grieving child, not get dragged into some dark fantasy novel. And yet something about Dominic. His presence, his voice, his gaze had rooted itself in her bones. It wasn't just attraction, although he was devastatingly magnetic. It was something older, deeper, as though she had known him before she'd even arrived. A knock echoed from the door. She bolted upright. Eva! A small voice called. She rushed to the door and opened it to find Liliana standing there, eyes wide and frightened, her rabbit clutched to her chest. "What is it, sweet girl?" Eva knelt, brushing the girl's wild curls back. Liliana opened her mouth, but no words came. Instead, she pointed down the hall. Her small fingers trembled. "Did you hear something?" Eva asked gently. The girl nodded, her lower lip quivering. "Okay, let's go look together." They walked hand in hand through the corridor. The silence was oppressive. The only sound was the soft patter of their footsteps and the distant creak of old wood settling. When they reached the end of the hallway, Eva paused near the ornate mirror hanging beside the window. In its reflection, she saw movement, something fast, something unnatural behind them. She whipped around, nothing. Liliana buried her face into Eva's side. "Come on," Eva whispered. "Let's go back to your room. You're safe with me." They settled back into Liliana's bed. Eva pulled the blankets up and sat beside her until the little girl's eyes drifted shut. She stayed that way for a while, staring out the window into the trees, where shadows shifted and silver eyes glowed faintly in the dark. The following morning, the household was quieter than before. Servants moved silently through the halls. The staff never spoke unless spoken to. Everything was efficient, controlled, almost military. At breakfast, Dominic was absent. Eva and Liliana ate alone in the solarium. "Will your father be joining us today?" Eva asked gently. Liliana shook her head. Eva waited, unsure if she'd say more, but she remained quiet, arranging her strawberries into a neat circle on her plate. Eva decided to use the opportunity to explore more of the estate with Liliana. She packed a small lunch and guided her outside into the expansive gardens. Past the lily pond and overgrown archways, they found an old stone bench under a weeping willow. Liliana climbed up beside her and opened a picture book. Eva smiled and looked around despite the eerie warnings. This place was beautiful. Isolated, yes, but undeniably enchanting. "You like it there?" she asked softly. Liliana hesitated. Then she nodded. "But you're lonely," Eva added. The girl's eyes welled slightly, and she nodded again. Eva reached out, wrapping her arms around her small frame. "You don't have to be alone anymore." "I'm here, I promise." A soft sound behind them made Eva turn. Dominic stood several feet away, silent as a shadow. "You're good with her," he said. Eva stood quickly. "Try, she's amazing." Dominic's eyes softened slightly. "She is." There was a moment of silence, thick with unspoken things. "You didn't sleep well," he said, his tone shifting. Eva crossed her arms. "You were right. This place has secrets." His lips twitched. "And you're still here?" "I don't scare easily." His gaze darkened. "You should." Their eyes locked. Electric tension charging the air. Eva broke the silence first. "You keep saying things like that, but you haven't given me any reason to run." Dominic took a step closer. "Would you believe me if I told you I wanted you to stay?" "I'm not sure," she said honestly. Another step. "What if I told you I didn't hire you just because of your qualifications?" Her heart thudded. "Then why did you?" His answer came after a pause. "Because I dreamed of you." Eva barely had time to respond before a loud howl split the air. Deep, guttural, and close. Liliana flinched and grabbed Eva's hand. Dominic's face hardened instantly. "Inside now." Servants came running from the garden paths. One rushed to Liliana, taking her gently from Eva. "Hey!" Eva shouted, alarmed. But Dominic stepped in front of her, his eyes flashing silver. "Go inside, Eva." "No," she snapped. "I'm staying with her." He growled a low animal sound. She flinched. I said, Hagrided, "Go now." The power behind his voice wasn't natural. It reverberated through her chest like a command. Still, Eva held his gaze. "She needs someone who won't run when things get scary." Dominic's nostrils flared, his fists clenched. But then he nodded. "She stays with you," he told the servant holding Liliana. "No one else." He turned to Eva. "I'll explain everything soon, but for now, keep her inside." Away from the western gate. "Is it another wolf?" Eva asked. "Is it like you?" Dominic paused. "It's not like me." And with that, he turned and disappeared into the trees. The rest of the day passed in a blur of tension. From inside the playroom windows, Eva watched as armed guards moved around the perimeter. Every staff member walked with purpose and tight-lipped concern. Something had breached the outer woods. Something they weren't sure they could control. Liliana sensed it too. She stayed close to Eva, clutching her rabbit and flinching at every strange noise. That evening, when things finally seemed to settle, Eva took Liliana to bed. She read to her in a soft, soothing voice until the little girl finally fell asleep. her tiny hand curled around Eva's fingers. But Eva stayed awake long after, sitting by the window, staring into the forest beyond, and eventually, when she couldn't fight the need any longer, she slipped on a coat and crept quietly downstairs. The house was dead silent. She followed her instincts. Not the hole she knew, but down a corridor she hadn't explored yet. One lined with old portraits, one that smelled faintly of smoke and something wild. At the end of the hallway was a door she hadn't noticed before, large, iron-bound. She placed her hand on it, and it creaked open. Inside was a room unlike anything else in the estate. Dimly lit, filled with artifacts and weapons, maps pinned to the walls, ancient books stacked haphazardly on long tables. And in the center, Dominic, his shirt was off. His back was turned. Scars covered him, jagged claw marks, bite wounds, old burns. Eva gasped. He turned sharply, their eyes locked. She opened her mouth to speak, but the words dissolved because his eyes weren't just glowing now. They were fully shifted and his teeth were fangs. I've been here less than 48 hours and I've already seen wolves with glowing eyes, armed patrols, and now she gestured help. You weren't supposed to see this. Then stop hiring nannies like me. You said it yourself. I'm not just human, am I? That caught him off guard. He stepped toward her, shadows licking the edges of his form in the dim torchlight of the study. Who told you that? You did, she replied. Your friend. The older one with the silver beard. Dominic's expression tightened. And what do you think you are, Eva? She hesitated. I don't know. I always knew I was different, stronger than the average person, fast reflexes. But my mom never talked about my father. She just told me to keep my head down and stay out of trouble. He nodded slowly because she was protecting you. From what? Dominic's eyes flashed. From us? He moved toward the map table and unfurled an old parchment. It was a crude layout of the surrounding territories, marked in red ink with glyphs, symbols, and clan sigils she didn't understand. Wolves have ruled this land long before humans settled here. We live in packs bound by blood and moon. My pack, Ravenwood, is the last line between order and the chaos that would devour everything. Eva moved closer, her eyes scanning the table. What kind of chaos? He pointed to a sigil inked in black. A circle of claws, the Hall of Fangs. Rogue wolves, exiles, mercenaries, monsters, they don't follow the moon code. They take what they want, kill who they please. And they're Theons who howled last night. He gave a grim nod. They've been encroaching on our borders for weeks, testing our defenses, searching for weaknesses. I suspect they know something about you. Eva stiffened me. They've never breached this close to the manor before. Not since Liliana was born. But the timing, your arrival, it's not a coincidence. Eva's mind reeled. You think they're after me? Dominic turned to her, stepping close again. Not just you, what you are. There's power in your blood, Eva. Ancient power. You may be half human, but the other half might be enough to tip the balance of war. The room spun slightly. Okay, wait. Let's back up. This war, how long has it been going on? Dominic sighed, rubbing the back of his neck. Centuries. But in the last decade, things have escalated. The Hall of Fangs don't just want land anymore. They want domination. They've started taking humans, turning them, breeding hybrids. Her blood ran cold. You mean abominations, half-wolf, half-human, bred for war, unstable, dangerous? But you, he looked at her, eyes softening. You're not like them. You're something else. Something rare. I'm a damn nanny, Dominic, Eva whispered. I didn't sign up to be the key to a werewolf civil war. I didn't ask you to be, but you are here now and they'll come again. She swallowed. And what about you? What are you? His gaze didn't waver. I'm Alpha, born under the blood moon, heir to Ravenwood, protector of my people. She stared at him. And you're also the man who hired me to take care of his daughter. I'm that too. There wassalance between them again. Eva felt it. That pull, that inexplicable thread tying her to this man. You knew, she said suddenly. Before I arrived, you knew who I was. I suspected, he admitted. But when I saw you, I felt it. Felt what? He stepped forward so close she could smell the forest and ash on his skin. That you were mine. Her breath caught. That's not how this works, she said, voice barely above a whisper. In my world it is, he murmured. We don't choose our mates. The bond chooses for us. And I've never felt anything like this until you walked in. Eva stepped back. This is insane. It's fate, he said, voice tight. And I know it's terrifying, but you're not alone in this. The firelight flickered between them. She stared into his storm gray eyes and saw not just power, but pain, loss, hope. She wanted to tell him he was wrong. that she couldn't be this person, that she didn't belong here. But instead, she whispered, "What do we do now?" Dominic's eyes darkened with purpose. "Now," he said, "we prepare." The next few days passed in a blur of training, whispered conversations, and sleepless nights. Dominic refused to let Eva leave the estate, but he also refused to leave her unprotected. She found herself sparring in the West Wing courtyard with Lucan, the gruff bait who had first welcomed her. Lucan barked commands again. "Lead with your left." Eva gritted her teeth and lunged, slamming her fist into the padded target. Lucan grunted. "Not bad, half-breed. You're stronger than you look." "I'll take that as a compliment," she muttered. Dominic appeared from the shadows, watching. "She's a quick learner," he said, folding his arms. "She's still got a long way to go," Lucan growled. "But I've seen worse." Eva wiped sweat from her brow. "Thanks, I guess." Dominic stepped forward and handed her a water bottle. Their fingers brushed. The connection sizzled. He didn't pull away. Neither did she. "You feel it too," he said quietly. Eva looked up at him. "I don't know what I feel anymore, but it's there." She didn't answer because he was right. Something was there, and it terrified her. That night, Eva wandered the hallways alone again. She found herself outside Liliana's room and peeked inside. The girl was fast asleep, hugging her rabbit tight. Eva smiled faintly and moved on. Her feet carried her back to the hidden study. The maps were still there. Sour the weapons. But something new was pinned to the wall, a faded photograph. She stepped closer. It was a woman, tall, fierce-eyed, wearing a dark cloak. She looked hauntingly familiar. Her breath caught when she read the name beneath it. Elena Blackwood, her mother's name. "What the hell?" she whispered. A voice behind her made her jump. She was one of us before she vanished. Eva turned to find Dominic in the doorway. "You knew my mother?" He nodded slowly. "She was a legend. Huff shifter like you, only stronger. They say she defied the Holofangs and escaped with a secret." "A child." Eva stared at the photo. "She never told me about any of this. She was protecting you just like I will." Eva met his eyes, heart pounding. "What if I don't want this?" Dominic stepped forward. "Then I'll fight for you until you do." Chapter 5, The Bond Awakens. Eva was no stranger to dreams. But this was different. She stood in the middle of a dark forest, moonlight pouring down in silver streams through the towering trees. The air was thick with power, humming with a rhythm that vibrated against her skin. The shadows shifted, and from them emerged a wolf, massive, majestic. Its fur was dark as midnight, and its eyes, those unmistakable storm-gray eyes, locked onto hers. "Dominic," she whispered. The wolf stepped forward, and in his eyes she saw everything. Fury, desire, pain, and something deeper, something primal, the bond. Her chest tightened as the creature approached. But she didn't run. Instead, she stepped closer, raising her hand toward his fur. Before she could touch him, the forest began to tremble. The sky cracked open. Thunder roared, and from the mist, a second wolf emerged, twisted, monstrous, eyes glowing a vicious red. Eva's heart stuttered. The two wolves growled at each other, circling, ready to clash. She screamed Dominic's name and jolted awake. Her sheets were tangled around her, sweat slicking her skin, breath coming in short gasps. It was still night, but the dream had been more than a dream. She felt it, an echo of the bond pulling her toward him, toward danger. Without thinking, she got out of bed and slipped through the halls barefoot. The manor was quiet, the scent of old wood and forest air clinging to the walls. She followed the pull in her chest until she reached the west terrace. The doors were ajar, the night wind rustling through. He was there. Dominic stood shirtless under the moonlight, his back to her, body tense. The lines of his shoulders were rigid, his fists clenched. Steam rolled off him in waves as if his skin couldn't decide whether to shift or stay human. "Dominic," she said softly. He didn't turn. "I felt it too," she added. That made him look. His eyes met hers. Storm gray, tormented. "It's happening faster than I expected." "The bond." He gave a slow nod. "It's waking up." Eva stepped forward. "What does that mean for us?" He turned to her fully now. "It means everything's about to change." She stared up at him, trying to steady her breathing. "I barely know you, and yet you feel me," he said. "Here." He pressed his hand lightly over her heart. Her pulses stuttered beneath his touch. "You were in my dream," she admitted. He tilted his head. "You were in mine." "The wolves. You and something else bigger." Red eyes, Heist's expression darkened. That was a vision. The Holophong Alpha Silas. Eva's spine went stiff. He's the one coming after me. He'll stop at nothing. The closer we become, the more danger you're in. She looked down. Then maybe we shouldn't become anything. You think the bond cares what we want? He growled softly. It exists outside of logic, outside of reason. You can try to run, but it will follow. He stepped forward so close now she could feel the heat radiating from his skin. And I won't let them have you. Her breath hitched. You make promises like it's easy. It is, he murmured, brushing a lock of hair from her cheek. When I know what's mine, she should have pulled away. Every cell in her body screamed at her to resist, but instead she closed her eyes and leaned into him. Their lips met, soft at first, uncertain, but then the bond flared, wild, hungry, electric. Heat surged between them like a tide breaking against the shore. He tasted like cedar smoke and danger. And when he pulled her closer, it felt like coming home to a place she didn't know she'd lost. But just as quickly as it began, he broke the kiss. His forehead rested against hers. I can't, he whispered. Not yet. Eva blinked. Why? He took a shaky breath. Because claiming you means sealing the bond, making it permanent. And if we do that, you'll be tied to this war forever. You think I'm not already? He stepped back, running a hand. She crossed her arms, chin high. You don't get to decide what kind of life I want. He smiled faintly. There's the fire again. Damn right. She turned toward the door. I'll see you at training. Dominic watched her go. The tension in his chest easing slightly, but deep down he knew the bond wasn't just awakening. It was hungry and time was running out. The following morning, Eva threw herself into training like a woman possessed. Lucan scowled. You trying to prove something? Maybe. Good, because you're going to need every bit of strength you've got. He handed her a dagger, silver-coated just in case. She stared at it. This could kill me, couldn't it? Lucan nodded. Wouldn't recommend stabbing yourself, noted. Over the next few hours, they drilled everything. Combat techniques, escape maneuvers, pressure points. By noon, Eva's arms were jelly and her muscles screamed in protest. But she didn't stop. Not even when the others began to gather and whisper. She felt their eyes on her. The pack members, some curious, some skeptical, a few hostile. She's not one of us, someone muttered. She's dangerous, said another. Lucan barked at them. She's under the Alpha's protection. Or in his bed, a younger wolf snorted. The next second, he was on the ground. Eva had slammed him with a shoulder throw that left even Lucan blinking in surprise. Anyone else want to question my place here? She snapped. Silence. Lucan coughed. Lesson over. Later that evening, Eva found herself in the old library dusting off books and trying not to think about Dominic. So naturally, he showed up. Word is you flattened one of my warriors, he said from the doorway. Eva didn't look up. He had it coming. He stepped inside, hands in his pockets. They're just scared of me, of what you represent. Change, uncertainty, the bond. She sighed and finally met his gaze. You keep talking about this bond like it's a curse. It's not, he said quietly. It's a promise. Then maybe I want to choose who I promise myself to. Dominic stepped closer. You think I asked for this? I've spent years building these walls, not just around this estate, but around my heart. Then you show up and suddenly everything I thought I knew shifts. Eva's heart pounded. You scare me, he said. She blinked. I scare you. He gave a tight smile. Because I want you more than I've ever wanted anything. And if I let myself fall, there's no coming back. They stood in silence. Then Eva stepped forward, lifted his hand, and pressed it over her heart. It's already happening, Dominic, whether we like it or not. He looked down at their joined hands, and for the first time in a long time, he let himself hope. Chapter 6. Blood and Betrayal. The scent of blood hit Dominic before he reached the northern border. It was sharp, fresh, twisted with something darker. Something wrong. Had pushed through the forest at full speed, boots pounding the earth. Eva close behind him despite his orders to stay put. She was faster than he'd anticipated. Too fast for a human. No, not just human. He had to remember that. They emerged from the brush at the northern ridge, and the sight made Dominic's blood run cold. Bodies. 2 office scouts lay mangled across the forest floor, torn open by claws far too large for any ordinary wolf. The trees around them were shredded, burnt, and at the center of the clearing stood a symbol charred into the soil. A crescent moon pierced by a claw. Eva's breath caught behind him. That's the Holophong mark, Dominic said grimly. Eva knelt beside one of the bodies, her fingers trembling. This one's still breathing. Dominic dropped to his knees. It was Owen, a young wolf barely past his first transformation. His chest rose and fell in shallow gasps, his face slick with blood. "Owen," Dominic said, pressing a hand to the boy's shoulder. "Stay with me." The scout's eyes fluttered. "Alpha, they came from Themist." "I didn't see them. Just red eyes." Dominic's jaw tightened. "How many? I don't know. Fast, strong, too strong." One of them said your name. He coughed violently, blood speckling his lips. Eva moved quickly, tearing her jacket to bend his wounds. "We need to get him back now." Dominic nodded. "Help me lift him." Together, they carried Owen through the woods, moving with urgency. By the time they reached the edge of the pack's territory, the healers were already waiting, alerted by Dominic's mental ink. The moment Owen was taken, Dominic turned to Eva. "You shouldn't have followed me." "I know," she said, "but I'm not sorry." Their eyes locked. There was no time for softness now. "Come with me," he said. The war room inside the estate was dim, its walls lined with ancient maps, worn tomes, and weapons from centuries past. At the center stood a large table carved from the trunk of the first sacred moonwood tree. Dominic traced a clawed finger across the Holophong mark that had been drawn into the table center. "They're escalating," he said, striking at the borders, leaving messages. Eva leaned against the wall, arms crossed. "They want to provoke you. They want me to claim the bond. If I do, it links you to the pack and makes me a target." He looked up at her. "You already are." There was a long silence between them. Then Eva asked quietly, "Why me, Dominic? Why do I matter to them?" He hesitated. "Because you're the key. Because your bloodline carries a secret even you don't know because fate tied us together, and that terrifies them. But instead," he said, "because they fear what we are together." Eva wasn't stupid. She heard the things he didn't say. Before she could respond, the door burst open and Lucan strode in, eyes wild. "We found something," he said. "Near the southern cliffs. You need to see it." Dominic and Eva followed him through the tunnels beneath the estate. Ancient passageways carved into the stone that led to the hidden caves below. They emerged into a hollow chamber glowing with moonstone crystals. At the center lay a body, female, young human Eva's breath court. She dropped to her knees. The girl had long black hair and skin marked by strange sigils burned into her flesh. "She looks like me," Eva whispered. Dominic crouched beside her. "This was meant for you." Lucan handed over a note, scrolled in blood on torn parchment. "Return the girl or she dies next." There was no signature, but they didn't need one. The Hall of Fangs were baiting him, testing him. Eva stood slowly, her voice hard as steel. "They killed this girl to send me a message." Dominic's jaw was clenched so tight it ached. "They won't stop until they break me." Eva's eyes met his. "Then don't break." He stepped closer. "I can't protect you forever. Then teach me to protect myself." Dominic stared at her. There was no fear in her eyes, only fury, determination, fire, and something inside him shifted again. He nodded. "Starting tomorrow, you train with me." That night, Eva couldn't sleep. She wandered through the estate, stopping by the old chapel ruins behind the manor. The moon was full overhead, bathing the stones in a silver glow. A presence stirred beside her. She didn't have to turn to know it was him. "Couldn't sleep?" Dominic asked. "Too much blood on my mind." He nodded, stepping beside her. "They're trying to scare you. They're doing a pretty damn good job. But you're still here." She glanced at him. "And you?" He smiled faintly. "I haven't run in a long time." They stood in silence for a moment, the bond humming between them. Then Eva asked, "What are you hiding from me?" Dominic didn't answer at first. Then he said, "There's more to your past than you know." "My past, your mother, she wasn't just a healer. She was a guardian. One of the last of the Moon Dawn line." Eva turned to face him. "How do you know that?" "I knew her before she died." Her knees nearly gave out. "You knew my mother." Dominic nodded. "She saved me once during the Great Purge. She hid me from the elders at great cost." Eva stared at him, the world spinning. "Why didn't you tell me before?" "Because if the Hall of Fangs knew what blood runs in your veins, they'd stop at nothing to claim you or destroy you." Eva stepped back, shaking. "So I'm not just your mate. I'm your weapon." "No," he said firmly, stepping forward. "You're my future and the key to saving this pack." Her voice broke. "Then why does it feel like I'm just another pawn in your war?" Dominic looked away. "Because sometimes that's the only way to survive." She turned and walked away, heart pounding. Dominic watched her disappear into the moonlight. And for the first time since the bond awakened, he wasn't sure he could keep her safe. In the darkness, far beyond the border, Silas stood watching the flames dance before him. The Holophong Alpha was tall, cloaked in shadows, his eyes glowing with hellish red light. "She's remembering," his second said. Silas grinned, revealing rows of sharp teeth. "Good. The more she awakens, the closer we come." And Dominic. He'll fall. They always do. The flames roared higher and the war began. Chapter 7, The Alphas Passed. The rain started just before dawn. Not a drizzle, but a full downpour that washed over the land like a cleansing ritual. Ava stood at the training grounds behind the estate, soaked to the bone, but unmoving. Dominic had told her to meet him here at first light, and she was determined to prove she wouldn't break. When he appeared, it wasn't from the house. It was from the woods. He walked barefoot, shirtless, rain sliding down the lean muscle of his body, hair plastered to his skull, golden eyes glowing even under the gray sky. "You came," he said. "I told you I'm done being a liability," she answered. He studied her for a moment. Then he nodded. "Then let's begin." They started with movement. Not just martial technique, but instinct, precision, awareness. Dominic moved like a predator. Each gesture fluid, lethal. Eva stumbled, recovered, struck back. Had blocked with ease. "Too wide," he said. "You'll get gutted like that." "Then show me." He stepped behind her, adjusting her stance with his hands. Center of gravity. Your body knows things your mind hasn't caught up to yet. Ava exhaled slowly, letting herself feel, letting her bones remember. She struck again. This time he smiled. Better. The hours bled into each other. By mid-AM morning, she was bruised, soaked, exhausted, and more alive than she'd felt in years. "You don't pull your punches," she panted. "I don't plan to," he replied. They sat in the wet grass, breathing hard. "You said my mother was a guardian," Eva said. "What else do you know about her?" Dominic looked toward the trees as if watching ghosts pass between the trunks. "Her name was Serafina. She was born during a blood moon. That alone marked her as special, but it was her spirit that made her unforgettable. She stood between monsters and innocence. She gave everything." Eva's throat tightened. "How did she die?" Dominic's eyes darkened. "Protecting me from the elders." He looked at her then. "You're like her. Stubborn, brave, reckless." Eva offered a crooked smile. "Compliments, all of them." There was a flicker of amusement in his eyes. Then it faded. "You asked me once what I was hiding." Eva nodded. "I was born to an alpha. My father ruled the Bloodfangs before me." Her breath caught. "I thought the Bloodfangs were wiped out." They were, or so they believed. He stood walking toward the edge of the woods. Eva followed. "My father was a tyrant, cruel, obsessive. When I was 12, he tried to force the bond with a Luna from another pack. She refused, so he killed her." Ava's stomach turned. "I ran. Lived in the wilds for years. Hunted by my own kind until Serafina found me. She healed me. Taught me how to control the rage." He turned to her, rain dripping from his jawline, but rage never forgets. Ava reached for his hand. "And now I lead the Crescent Fong pack built from survivors, rebels, outcasts, and I swore I'd never become the monster he was." "But the Holof Fangs want to turn you into him," she said softly. Dominic nodded. "And they'll use you to do it." Later that evening, Eva walked through the estate's library. A towering cathedral of books and ancient records. The scent of aged parchment comforted her. She traced her fingers along the spines until one volume caught her eye. Moon Prophecies. She opened it. Inside were hand-drawn sigils, ones she'd seen in her dreams, symbols of protection, balance, and celestial power. One page stopped her heart cold. The twin flame bond. When two souls, Wolf and Star, are joined by fate, the union will either save the realm or shatter it. Eva's pulse quickened. Could that be what she and Dominic were? She barely noticed the soft footfalls behind her until a voice broke the silence. "You're reading the wrong books." She spun only to see a woman standing in the archway, cloaked in dark gray hair silver despite her youthful face. "The right question is, what am I?" the woman said, stepping into the candlelight. Her eyes glowed faintly violet. "Name's Nyla. I'm the seer of the Crescent Fong." Ava's breath caught. "You're the one who painted the sigils above my room." Nyla nodded. "You've got dangerous blood, girl. It sings to the moon in ways few ever do. Do you know what's happening to me?" Nyla walked over, gently closing the book. "You're remembering who you were before the silence. Your power was sealed the night your mother died. By who? By her to protect you. But the bond with Diminish is waking it up fast." Ava swallowed hard. And if it wakes all the way, the Hall of Fangs won't be the only ones after you. Eva's mind spun. Is there a way to stop it? There's a way to control it. But it comes with a price. What price? Nyla's gaze turned distant. Trust, surrender, and the acceptance that Fata doesn't care about love. Ava stepped back. I'm not ready for that. No one ever is, Nyla said softly. But the moon waits for no one. That night, Dominic dreamed not of blood or war, but of a little girl with emerald eyes standing in a field of moonflowers. She smiled at him, holding out her hand. Don't be afraid, she whispered. Who are you? He asked. She pointed to the sky. I'm the promise you forgot. He woke with a gasp, and the scent of Eva still lingered in the sheets. Chapter 8, Moonlight Awakening. The moon was heavy that night, bloated and silver, casting ghostly light over the Crescent Fong estate. Ava stood on the edge of the cliffs, wind tugging at her hair, staring at the vast forest below. Something stirred inside her, restless, wild. She didn't know if it was fear or something deeper, something ancient. Dominic's training had pushed her past her limits all week. Each day he taught her more. How to track by scent, how to defend without thought, how to listen to her instincts. But tonight she didn't feel like prey or predator. She felt like something else entirely. Couldn't sleep. Eva turned at the sound of Dominic's voice behind her. He approached slowly, barefoot again, like he always was at night. His presence grounded her, even when her world threatened to tilt. Too much in my head, she admitted, still thinking about what Nyla said. Eva nodded that there's something inside me waiting to wake up. There is, Dominic said. And when it does, it'll change everything. She turned to face him. You say that like you're afraid. I'm not afraid of you. I'm afraid for you. Their eyes met, unspoken things thick between them. Eva shivered. Not from cold, but from what she felt rising inside. Teach me, she said. Dominic arched a brow. Now, right now, he studied her for a long moment, then gestured toward the open training ring nearby. Then we start with your shift. Ava's breath caught. I thought I had to wait until you're not like others, he said. Your wolf is dormant, not absent. But she's stirring now. You've felt her. Eva nodded slowly in the woods during the attacks. When I'm angry, she's tied to your emotions. That's dangerous unless you learn control. Dominic stepped into the center of the ring. The moonlight lit up the runes carved into the stone floor. Ancient glyphs from the Moondawn legacy. Breathe, he said. Close your eyes. Listen to the wind, to the pulse beneath your skin. Eva obeyed. Her heart thudded in her ears. Then she felt it. A flicker. A pull from deep within her bones. Like another heartbeat echoing alongside her own. Her body trembled, her breath quickened. She cried out as her muscles tightened, skin tingling like fire. Her vision blurred, her hearing sharpened. Then it was gone. Her knees buckled and she dropped to the ground, gasping. Dominic rushed to her, catching her before she fell. You're close, he murmured. Closer than you realize. It felt like I was splitting in two. You are, he said. You and your wolf are still separate. You have to let her in. Ava gritted her teeth. I want to try again. Not tonight, Dominic said gently. You push too hard, you'll break. She didn't like it, but she trusted him. Still, even as he helped her back toward the estate, she could feel her wolf pacing beneath her skin. Not waiting, preparing. Later that night, Eva returned to the library. She needed answers. Desperately, she combed through the Moondawn prophecies again, fingers trailing across centuries-old ink. One passage stood out now, clearer than it had before. The wolf born of moon and blood shall awaken under silver skies. When shadow rises, her howl shall pierce the veil, and the world will tremble. It felt like it was written about her. She didn't notice Nyla standing behind her until the seer spoke. It was written about you. Eva turned startled. You scared the hell out of me. I get that a lot. Nyla moved closer, her violet eyes glowing faintly in the candlelight. You're connected to something far older than this pack, she said. And that awakening you felt tonight, that's only the beginning. I want to know everything, Eva said. No more half-truths. Nyla tilted her head. Your mother was the last fully awakened Moondawn. But you're something different. Half Moondawn, half Alpha Blood. Dominic? Nyla shook her head. Nothing. Your father? Eva froze. I don't know who he was, Nyla continued. Only that he wasn't human and he wasn't from here. Eva's heart pounded. Then what does that make me? Nyla smiled faintly. A myth made flesh. A bridge between worlds. Before Eva could respond, the estate's alarm bells rang out. a deep resonating howl that echoed through the walls. They were under attack. Dominic was already outside when Eva sprinted into the courtyard. Wolves scrambled through the trees, members of the Crescent Fong Pack taking up positions, howling orders forming a defense line from the northern ridge. Dark figures emerged. Not many, 5 at most. But Eva felt it. The wrongness in the air, the smell of ash and blood. The hull of fangs, Dominic said, eyes flashing gold. Lucan appeared at his side, blade in hand. They're testing us again. Let them, Dominic growled. The enemy didn't shift. Instead, one stepped forward. A tall woman cloaked in black, eyes like polished coal. I bring a message for the Alpha, she called out. Dominic narrowed his eyes. Speak. She lifted a scroll and threw it at his feet. Then she smiled, revealing sharpened teeth. Tick-tock Alpha. The moon waits for no one. Before anyone could strike, they vanished into the mist, leaving behind only the scroll and a sickly scent of rot. Dominic opened the scroll with caution. His hands trembled. Eva peered over his shoulder. The girl's awakening is our call to arms. Surrender her at the full moon, or we burn your territory to ash. Signed with a claw, Dominic crushed the scroll in his fist. They want you, he said, voice rough. Eva didn't hesitate, then let them come. Chapter 9. The Blood Pact. The war drums of the Holofangs hadn't yet sounded, but their threat echoed through the Crescent Fong estate like a curse. Surrender her at the full moon, or we burn your territory to ash. The words still rang in Eva's ears as she sat in the War Council chamber. Around her, Dominic's Bates, Lucan, Issa, Ryan, she's the target, Isla said coldly, pacing near the hearth. It's her blood they want. If we hand her over, they might stand down. Lucan snarled. You suggesting we just give her to them? I'm suggesting we weigh our options. One life versus the lives of everyone in this pack. That's logic, not betrayal. Dominic stood at the head of the long stone table. His hands were braced against the surface. Jaw clenched, golden eyes hard. If anyone speaks of surrender again, they answer to me. Issa's mouth snapped shut. Eva looked around, pulse steady. I'm not hiding and I'm not running. If they want a war, they'll get one. Lucan grinned. That's what I like to hear. Dominic met her eyes, pride and worry simmering beneath his guarded expression. Later, when the council dispersed, he asked her to stay. They stood alone, firelight painting shadows across the stone walls. I meant what I said, Eva told him. I'm not some damsel waiting to be saved. I know that, Dominic replied. But you're more than just strong. You're important, and that makes you a target. She crossed the space between them slowly. Then teach me how to stop being one. His gaze flicked to her lips, then back to her eyes. You trust me that much? I do, he nodded. Then it's time you formed the Blood Pact. Eva blinked. What's that? It's an ancient ritual. Moon wolves used it to awaken their full potential. It bonds you to your alpha and your pack permanently through blood, through spirit, through choice. Her breath caught. That sounds intense. It is. It will tear down every wall you've built around your wolf. If you survive it, your power will be your own to command. And if I don't survive it, then you won't need to worry about the Hall of Fangs anymore, he said grimly. She swallowed. Okay, I want to do it. Dominic stared at her, jaw tight. Tonight, under the half moon. We don't have much time before the full. That evening, they traveled deep into the forest beyond the territory boundary where the trees grew older and the air shimmered with wild magic. The clearing was silent, untouched by human hands. In the center stood a circular stone altar etched with ancient runes. Candles lit the edges, flickering blue. Nyla waited there along with Lucan and Issa, silent now, all bearing ceremonial markings on their skin. Dominic stepped forward and cut his palm with a ceremonial dagger. Blood to bind. Eva followed without hesitation, slicing her own. He pressed his palm to hers. Power surged between them. The wind rose in a sudden gust, swirling leaves and ash into the air. The runes on the stone altar began to glow. Eva's knees buckled from the sheer pressure of it like a tidal wave crashing into her spirit. Name your truths, Nyla called. I am Eva, she whispered. Daughter of Seraphina, child of the moon and the blood. Name your fears. I fear losing myself. I fear being the weapon they want me to be. Name your vow. I vow to protect this pack. To fight for them, to never run again. The light exploded, blinding white. Eva screamed as her blood turned to fire, her bones to lightning. She saw everything at once. Her mother dying in flame, a golden-haired alpha howling in grief, the hollow fangs surrounding her, like jackals and her wolf. her wolf rising from the shadows, luminous and magnificent. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. Then darkness took her. She woke in Dominic's arms. They were back at the estate in his quarters. The fire crackled low. Her clothes had been changed into a loose tunic. The scent of herbs lingered in the air. "You've been out for a day," he said softly. She sat up slowly. Her skin tingled like it wasn't hers. Her senses were sharper, louder. She could hear heartbeats in the hallway. Smell the rain coming before it hit the roof. "I did it," she breathed. Dominic smiled. "You did more than that. You unlocked her." Eva closed her eyes and felt her wolf there, no longer separate. No longer caged. "I'm not the same." "No," he agreed. "You're stronger," she looked up at him. "But what happens now?" Dominic stood. "Now we train like hell." The days that followed were grueling. Every hour, Dominic pushed her to master her instincts, to let her wolf out in controlled bursts, to channel rage into precision, magic into momentum. Lucan sparred with her daily. "You're fast now," he admitted, rubbing a bruised rib. Too fast, Isla, once cold, now watched her with a touch of awe. "You really are Moondawn," she murmured. But Eva didn't let praise slow her. She had one goal: survive the full moon. And as the moon grew fuller, so did her nightmares. Every night she saw them, the whole of fangs. Fire raining from the trees, blood soaking the earth. And in the middle of it all, Dominic wounded falling. Each time she woke up gasping, her wolf snarling in fear. On the night before the full moon, she sat on the balcony outside her room, staring at the stars. Dominic joined her, silent at first. "They're coming," she said. "I know. Do you believe we can win?" "I believe in you," he said. Her eyes burned. "Why me?" He turned to her. "Because the first time I saw you, I didn't see someone broken. I saw someone burning to be whole." He reached for her hand. "You're not just power, Eva, you're hope." She leaned into him, then resting her head on his shoulder, and for the first time in days, she didn't feel afraid. She felt ready. Chapter 10, The Full Moon Falls. The full moon rose like a prophecy fulfilled, massive, glowing, and blood-tinged as it crept above the treetops. Its light painted the crescent Fong estate in eerie silver, bathing the forest in anticipation. It was the night the Hola Fangs promised war, and they'd never been ones to bluff. Ava stood at the center of the courtyard, armor fitted tight against her body, black leather reinforced with Luna steel plates. Her dark curls were braided back, eyes glowing faintly gold from the connection to her wolf. This was no longer the girl who had arrived at the gates weeks ago, desperate for a job. This was the warrior born of prophecy, the blood-packed Shalf, the Alpha's equal. Dominic stood beside her, radiating calm fury. He wore no armor, just black jeans and boots, but power rolled off him in waves. His golden eyes scanned the horizon without blinking. "They'll come through the eastern valley," he said. "It's closest to the ley line and gives them cover." Lucan nodded. "We've set traps along the perimeter. The eastern and southern flanks are guarded. Issa's command holds the rear." "What about the villagers?" Eva asked. "Evacuated?" Dominic replied. "Nyla led them to the western safe house." Ava nodded. "Good. That left only one priority. Defend the pack no matter the cost." She exhaled slowly and looked up at the blood moon. "You ready for this?" she whispered to the wolf inside her. The answer came not in words, but in a deep primal thrum of agreement. Her wolf was more than ready. She was hungry. Then the first horn blew, low and guttural, and all hell broke loose. The hollow fangs didn't attack in silence. This time they roared in from the forest like demons set loose, hundreds strong, clad in black bone armor. Their eyes glowed red with corrupted moon magic. They wielded swords, claws, and ancient spells. Dominic shifted mid-leap, his enormous midnight black wolf slamming into the first line of enemies with feral precision. Lucan followed his sandy wolf, sleek and agile, cutting down two before they could strike. Ava held the lean at the east with a small group of Crescent Fong warriors. Flames exploded near the treine, signaling a trap triggered. "Hold your ground," she bellowed. Her voice didn't just echo, it commanded. Her newly awakened wolf lent power to every syllable. The first wave hit them hard. Claws scraped against blades. Bones cracked. Blood painted the leaves. But Eva didn't fall. She danced through the chaos, striking with uncanny precision. Her wolf surged with every movement, pushing her faster, sharper. She met a hollow warrior head-on, ducking under his blade and slamming her elbow into his jaw. He staggered. She kicked his knee backward, then stabbed him through the heart. All around her, Crescent Fong warriors rallied at her presence. She had become their symbol of defiance, a force, a legend. Farther inside the forest, Dominic tore through enemies with calculated brutality. He was no longer holding back. Each move was primal and precise. But then, a scream. Issa. He turned mid-wipe to see her pinned by a massive Holophong brute, twice her size covered in bone tattoos. Eyes glowing with dark spellwork, Dominic howled and charged. The brute grinned, lifted Issa, and snapped her arm. Issa's scream turned ragged. Dominic slammed into him full force, sending the brute sprawling. He shifted mid-strike and drew a silver blade from his belt. They fought like gods in the mud, slashing and clawing. Finally, Dominic sank his blade into the brute's throat. Issa slumped to the ground. Dominic caught her. "You're not dying on me," he growled. "Wouldn't dare," she whispered faintly, smiling through the pain. At the front line, Eva's senses blared suddenly. Something was wrong. Too quiet. She turned just in time to see a new figure stepping from the shadows. Tall, robed in red and black with obsidian antlers curling from his forehead. He wasn't Holophong, he was something older. Eva Moon Dawn, the figure said, his voice like rust scraping bone. "We've waited a long time for you." She narrowed her eyes. "Who are you?" He bowed slightly. "I am Vin, the Holophong seer, and I've come to collect what belongs to us." Eva drew her twin daggers. "You'll die trying." Varin lifted a hand, and the ground beneath her exploded in dark magic. She was thrown back into a tree, ribs cracking on impact. She gasped. Varun moved fast, too fast. He struck again, but this time she was ready. She dodged, slashed at this side, her blade bit deep. Vaughn screamed. "You bleed like the rest," she said, standing tall. He grinned, his black blood hissing as it hit the ground. "So do you." He threw a screams, wolves dying. But then Dominic's voice cut through the haze. "Eva!" It grounded her. Her wolf surged. She pushed through the illusion, slammed into Vin with both blades drawn, and drove them into his chest. The magic died in his eyes. He collapsed. Dead all around them. The hollow fangs began to retreat. Their seer slain, their spells broken, their morale shattered. The crescent fangs roared in victory. Hours later, silence returned to the forest. The dead were burned, the wounded tended to. Eva stood in the clearing where it all began, blood drying on her skin, watching the sun rise. Dominic approached, his own wounds bandaged, but his eyes clear. "You saved them," he said. "We saved each other." He moved beside her, close enough to feel his warmth. "You don't belong to anyone, Eva. Not to this pack, not even to me. You are your own." She turned to him. "And yet I choose you." Dominic's breath hitched. Then he pulled her into his arms and kissed her beneath the first light of dawn. Not just as an alpha, but as a man in awe of the strongest she-elf he had ever known. Chapter 11. Of Fire and Vows. The moon had waned and the battle had passed, but its scars still lingered on the land and on the hearts of those who survived. The Crescent Fong pack began rebuilding the next morning. The scent of ash mingled with the fragrance of pine as warriors cleared debris and elders prayed over the fallen. Though the Holof Fangs had retreated, no one dared to believe it was truly over. But amidst the sorrow, something unspoken stirred. A quiet pride in what they had endured. And in the center of it all stood Eva, the warrior who had turned the tide. She had shed her armor. Now she wore a simple black tunic. Her hair tied back, eyes tired but steady. Dominic found her in the southern orchard where the trees still bore the scorch marks of battle. "We'll need to replant," she said, no turning as he approached. "These roots have been poisoned by dark magic." "I know," he replied. "But we'll do it together." Eva finally looked at him. "You don't have to stay." His eyes narrowed. "What? I was hired to help protect your pack. The battle's over. My contract is fulfilled." Dominic stepped closer. "You think I kept you here because of a contract?" Eva looked away. "That's what it was in the beginning." "Yes," he said gently. "But it isn't now." Silence stretched between them, filled with everything neither of them dared say outright. Then he reached into the pouch on his belt and pulled something out. A silver ring shaped like a crescent moon cradling a small obsidian stone. Eva stared. "This isn't a mating proposal," Dominic said quickly. "This is a vow," she blinked. "A vow, we're still in danger. The Holof Fangs might retreat for now, but they'll come back. And there's more. Your power, your bloodline, your wolf. You're part of something bigger, Eva, something ancient. I don't want you tied to me by force. I want you to choose." Eva took the ring in her palm. It pulsed faintly with protective runes. Her thumb traced the crescent. "I don't want to run anymore," she whispered. "I don't want to fight for people who will never see me, never accept me." Dominic stepped even closer. "You don't have to. You fight for us now. And we fight for you." He placed his hand over hers, the weight of his words anchoring her. A breeze stirred, carrying the scent of moss and new beginnings. "I choose this," Eva said at last. "I choose you. This pack, this future." Dominic's throat worked, emotion thick behind his alpha composure. "Then let's make it official." They walked together to the ritual circle. Not the altar used for the blood pact, but a smaller stone ring near the moon pool, reserved for vows between alphas and their second. It wasn't a mating ceremony, but it was binding. Lucan, Nyla, and Isa gathered quietly around them. The pack watched in respectful silence from a distance, understanding what this moment meant. They were seeing the future of their leadership take shape. Dominic turned to face Eva by the moon that binds our wolves. "I vow to fight beside you, not above, not beneath, as one." Eva held his gaze unwavering. "And I vow to stand beside you, not as your weapon, not as your shadow, but as your equal." They placed their hands on the moonstone at the center of the circle. It flared with silver-blue light, sealing their vow in ancient magic. A pulse of warmth spread across the crowd. Isa whispered, "It's done." Cheers erupted. Wild, genuine, victorious. Eva stepped away from the stone and turned toward the pack. Their eyes held no fear of her, no suspicion, only trust, loyalty, acceptance. She was no longer the outsider. She was their own. Later that night, the celebration began. Crescent Fong bonfires lit the forest edges. Music filled the air and laughter replaced the mourning. Eva sat near one of the fires, sipping from a carved mug as she watched the warriors dance. Lucan dropped beside her, grinning. "Didn't think I'd see the day the Alpha shared power." "He didn't share it," Eva replied. "We forged it together." Lucan chuckled. "Damn right you did. Never seen him look at anyone like he looks at you." "You broke his stone-cold act." Eva arched a brow. "I didn't do it alone." He raised his mug. "To the future, Luna." Eva nearly choked. "That's not official yet," he said, winking. Before she could reply, Dominic appeared behind her. "Lucan, go check the perimeter." Lucan snorted. "Didn't even get to finish my drink." Eva smiled as he walked away. "You jealous?" Dominic took his place beside her, their shoulders touching. "Of Lucan? Never. But I'm protective of my moments with you." They sat in silence for a while, letting the fire crackle between them. "You're different now," Dominic said, studying her. "I feel it," Eva admitted. "Like something inside me finally woke up. I'm not just strong. I'm balanced and dangerous," he added with a smile. Eva leaned into him. "Only to our enemies." Dominic's arm came around her shoulders. "There's still more we don't know. Why the Hall of Fangs wanted your bloodline? What that seer meant about collecting you." "I know," she murmured. "But I don't have to figure it out alone." He pressed a kiss to her temple. "Never again." They stayed there long into the night, wrapped in firelight, bound by their shared past and the war yet to come. But for now, peace had come to the Crescent Fong pack. And in that peace, something bloomed quietly between them. Not just alliance, not just partnership, but love, real, unshakable, and undeniable. Chapter 12, Echoes of the Moon Dawn. The sky was overcast, the clouds thick with weight, but the forest was unusually still. Eva stood at the edge of the moonshade ravine, staring into the mist-veiled depths. The narrow bridge beneath her boots creaked with every step, a fragile span of woven roots and bone magic. According to Dominic's old scrolls, this was where the first Moondawn wolf had been born, a place of ancient echoes and buried truths. She wasn't alone. Dominic stood behind her, watching quietly. He had insisted on joining her, though she'd originally planned to come alone. "I can feel something," she whispered. "Like something's calling me." "You're walking into the heart of your legacy," he said. "Of course, it's calling." She nodded. "Let's go." They crossed the bridge slowly, every footstep drawing them deeper into a memory she had never lived, but somehow always known. A howling wind carried strange whispers through the trees, like voices from another time. Dominic moved beside her, his eyes glowing faintly in the twilight. "Eva, are you sure you're ready?" "I don't think I've ever been ready," she said, lips tight. "But that's never stopped me." At the heart of Theravine, they found it. A stone altar, ancient and cracked, surrounded by crescent symbols. The air shimmered faintly above it, thick with residual magic. A ghostly light bathed the grove in silver as if the moon herself were watching. Eva stepped forward and laid her hand on the stone. Instantly, a shock of energy surged up her arm and into her chest. Her knees buckled, but she didn't fall. Dominic caught her, grounding her as the visions came. She was no longer in the ravine. She was in the past. The visions swept her into a silver forest bathed in moonlight. Wolves ran beneath glowing trees. A woman stood at the center, a fierce, tall she-wolf with eyes like burning coals. Her aura pulsed with ancient power. Eva knew her, though they had never met. "Moon dawn," Eva whispered. The woman turned. "You are my blood," she said. "The final echo of my strength. The Holof fangs fear what you carry because it cannot be tamed." "Why me?" Eva asked. "Why now?" "Because you survived," the ancestor said. "Where others fell, you injured. The prophecy was never about birthright. It was about choice. And you chose to rise." The woman stepped closer and touched Eva's heart. "You are the last moon dawn, but you are not alone. Protect the balance. Guard the moon's secret. And when the final shadow falls, remember strength without love is destruction. Power without purpose is ruin." The vision faded. Eva gasped and collapsed into Dominic's arms. Her body trembled from the magic's grip. "You're all right," he said, cradling her gently. "I've got you." She blinked up at him. "I saw her. The first she gave me something." Dominic looked around. Nothing's changed here. Eva opened her palm. There, glowing faintly, was a crescent-shaped mark etched into her skin. The same shape that adorned the altar. "Your birthright," Dominic said reverently. "No," Eva replied. "My responsibility." When they returned to the Crescent Fong estate, the atmosphere had shifted. The warriors could sense something had awakened in their second alpha. Lucan met them at the gates. "Bad news," he said immediately. Holofong scouts were spotted near the West Ridge. They're regrouping, and they weren't alone. Eva's brows drew together. "Who was with them?" Lucan hesitated. "A white-furred wolf? Huge scar down the left eye. Older. Fierce." Dominic stiffened. "My uncle," Dominic said bitterly. "The one who tried to take the Crescent Fong Alpha title by force after my father's death." "The one you banished?" He nodded. "I didn't kill him." "Maybe I should have." Eva's eyes hardened. "Looks like he's made new allies." Lucan crossed his arms. "He's not just lurking. He's leading." Eva turned toward the war map in the command hall. Her fingers traced the mountains, the ravines, the possible approaches. "They're not just regrouping," she murmured. "They're planning something big." Dominic studied her. "Well, stop them." Eva turned to him slowly. "We won't wait." "What do you mean?" "I mean, we take the fight to them." Dominic tilted his head. "You want to invade Holofong territory? They're on the move. If we strike first, we force their hand. We take away the element of surprise." Lucan gave a low whistle. "That's bold." "It's smart," Eva said. "We hit their new camp, disable their runekeepers, and cut off their dark magic before they can reinforce." Dominic nodded slowly. "You'll lead together," she said. He gave her a fierce smile. "Always." That night, the Crescent Fong War Council gathered beneath the stars. Warriors lined up in rows as Eva and Dominic took the platform. "War is not what we want," Eva said, her voice ringing clear. "But war is what has come to us again and again," the crowd murmured in agreement. "This time," she continued, "we go to them. We do not wait to be hunted. We become the hunters." Cheers rose from the crowd. "You fought bravely last time," Dominic added, "and you will again, but this time you follow not just an alpha but a moon dawn." He stepped back and let Eva take the full focus. She raised her hand and the crescent mark on her palm flared, casting silver light across the assembly. Wolves bowed their heads. Warriors knelt in reverence. "She walks with the ancients," Nyla whispered. "She leads us to victory," someone else said. Eva lowered her hand. "Prepare. In 2 nights, we strike." And with that, the council dispersed. Dominic turned to her. "You ready for this?" "No," she said. "But I'm doing it anyway," he grinned. "That's the Eva I know." But beneath her calm exterior, Eva's thoughts churned. Kieran, the Holofong remnants? The vision of the Moondorn ancestor. The shadows were moving and the final battle wasn't far. Chapter 13, Blood Oath and Betrayal. The forest was bathed in eerie silence. As the full moon rose behind shifting clouds, Crescent Fong warriors moved like shadows between trees. Silent, swift, and sure. Dressed in black leathers, weapons strapped to their sides, they advanced toward Holofong territory under the cover of night. Eva crouched at the front of the lead unit, eyes glowing faintly as her wolf sharpened her senses. Beside her, Dominic crouched low, his aura pulsing with quiet command. They had planned this attack for days, every movement mapped, every outpost counted. Their target was not conquest, it was disruption. The Holophong rune circle needed to fall. The magic that protected their elders and infused their warriors with dark energy had to be broken. If it wasn't, they'd face an enemy too powerful to defeat again. Eva's voice broke the stillness. Signal the west flank. Nyla, positioned just behind them, lifted a small whistle carved from bone and blew softly. A faint note echoed, inaudible to humans but loud and clear to wolves. The Crescent Fong units split smoothly into formation, encircling the valley below. The Holof Fangs were camped there, huddled around black flame torches. Their tents were crude and temporary. This was clearly a forward base, not their stronghold. But what caught Eva's eye was the circular clearing in the center. Runes etched into the dirt, blood mixed with ash, and standing at its core, 3 robed figures with their hands raised to the sky. Rune keepers, and they were mid-ritual. On my signal, Eva whispered. Dominic's hand found hers. Just for a moment. Be careful. I always am, she said. Lie, he muttered but smiled. Then the whistle blew again. This time a different tone. A strike order. All hell broke loose. Crescent Fong wolves burst from the treeing. Some in human form, some shifted into sleek and powerful wolves. Arrows flew, magic flared, screams rang into the night. Eva led the charge, blades flashing. She weaved through the chaos like a tempest, cutting down Holophong soldiers with lethal precision. Her wolf surged inside her, giving her speed beyond reason. Dominic fought beside her, claws ripping through armor and magic alike. A true alpha, calm, deadly, and utterly unrelenting. But the real target wasn't the soldiers. It was the rune. Eva spotted the first of them chanting faster as their magic circle glowed brighter. Lucan, she shouted. Take the west one. He nodded and veered off, howling orders. Eva and Dominic made straight for the central keeper, a woman with glowing red eyes and a mouth full of ancient words. Eva launched herself forward. The Runeeper raised her staff, releasing a blast of corrupt magic. Dominic threw up a shield just in time, but the force sent both of them flying backward. Eva hit the ground hard, ribs burning, ears ringing. The rune stepped toward her, staff raised again, when suddenly a silver blur shot past. Isla in wolf form, biting deep into the woman's leg. The keeper screamed. Eva surged to her feet, blades in hand, and struck. Her twin daggers sliced through the staff, then found the woman's chest. The magic imploded, sending a ripple through the runes. A howl erupted nearby. Lucan had taken down the second keeper. Nyla's fire arrows struck the third. The circle flickered, then shattered. Eva stood chest-heaving, blades dripping. Dominic joined her, blood on his claws. It's done. But Eva's instincts screamed otherwise. She turned and saw him. Kieran, the former alpha, Dominic's uncle, towering white-furred, one eye scarred, the other glowing with crimson malice. He stood on the ridge above the valley, watching as his forces collapsed. You came, Eva muttered, voice cold. Kieran's voice boomed. You broke me magic. Clever girl. Dominic stepped forward. Rage barely leashed. This ends tonight. Kieran laughed. Does it? I think not. He threw a small vial to the ground. It shattered and the air tore open. A portal. Dark magic forbidden. From it stepped 3 more Holophong elites. Giant wolves with obsidian armor fused to their bodies. Monstrosities created through pain and magic. Dominic's snarl shook the trees. Get the pack back. But Eva held her ground. We can't retreat. We stop them here. Kieran raised a hand, so be it. The battle reignited. Dominic lunged at his uncle, claws raking across fur and bone. The 2 alphas collided like gods, ancient power clashing with raw fury. Eva engaged one of the obsidian monsters, dodging massive swipes and striking at joints where the armor failed to cover. But these things didn't feel pain. They didn't slow down. She ducked, rolled, and launched herself onto the creature's back, stabbing down with both blades. Her crescent mark flared, and the blade lit with moonlight. The beast howled as the enchanted steel pierced its spine. One down, she turned to see Dominic struggling. Kieran's strength bolstered by whatever darkness he'd consumed. They clashed again and again, neither backing down. Then Eva heard it. A whisper. Not from the battle. From within. Use it. The crescent on her hand pulsed. She closed her eyes, trusted the voice, and called the power forward. Light exploded from her chest, pouring over the battlefield. The obsidian beasts staggered, shielding their eyes. Holophong warriors screamed as their magic sizzled. Even Kieran paused, snarling. Dominic took the chance and struck. His claws sank deep into Kieran's side. The older alpha howled, stumbled, and vanished into the trees, not dead, but wounded. The remaining Hall fangs broke ranks and fled. Silence returned. Eva fell to her knees, the power retreating. Dominic caught her before she collapsed fully. "You okay?" he asked voice hoarse. She nodded. "I will be." Lucan jogged up, bloodied, but grinning. "They're gone for now." Dominic glanced at Eva. "You turned the tide." Eva looked at her hand. The crescent still glowed faintly. "No," she said quietly, "we did." They stood amidst the ashes of battle, panting, bleeding, and victorious. But Eva knew this wasn't the end. Kieran would return. The Holofangs would grow desperate. And whatever lived within her, whatever Moon Dawn legacy she carried, had only begun to awaken. Chapter 14. The Alphas passed. The infirmary was quiet, lit by the soft glow of enchanted lanterns. Moonlight filtered in through the high windows, bathing everything in a pale silver hue. Eva sat beside Dominic's bed, watching the rise and fall of his chest. He slept deeply, a heavy bandage across his ribs where Kieran's claws had torn through skin and muscle. The healers had done what they could, but magic-infused wounds took time and strength to mend. Still, he breathed. He lived, and that was enough for now. Nyla entered quietly, setting a fresh bowl of herbs beside the bed. "How's he doing?" she asked. Eva didn't look away. Stubborn just like always. He'd be flattered. Nyla gave a small smile. "You saved him," Eva finally turned. "No, we saved each other." Nyla nodded, her gaze thoughtful. "And you're not afraid of what's coming?" Eva stood, stretching her sore limbs. "Afraid?" "Yes, but I've been afraid before. Fear never stopped me. It just taught me how to survive." Nyla studied her a moment longer, then said, "When he wakes, ask him about the river." Eva blinked. "The river?" Nyla simply nodded and walked out. Later that night, Dominic stirred. His groan of discomfort woke Eva instantly. "Easy," she said, placing a hand on his shoulder. His eyes fluttered open, unfocused for a moment. "Eva, I'm here." He relaxed, his hand reaching for hers. "Did we win?" She smiled faintly. "We survived and they're treated." Dominic exhaled slowly. "Good." For a long moment, they said nothing. Then Eva asked. Dominic turned his head toward the window, shadows crossing his face. "Noon's ever asked me that. I'm not everyone." He gave a bitter chuckle. "No, you're not." He was quiet for a moment, then began. "My father was a good man, a fair alpha. But Kieran, he was jealous. He believed the title should have passed to him because he was the firstborn, even though he'd been banished for reckless behavior years before." Eva listened, silent. "When my father died, the pack was vulnerable. Kieran returned, offering strength, offering vengeance against Holofangs. Some wolves listened. Let me guess, Eva said softly. He didn't ask for leadership. He took it. Dominic nodded. He challenged me in front of the council. I beat him barely, but I didn't kill him. I thought exile was enough. Mercy to a monster. Dominic's jaw tightened. I thought there was still something of my uncle left in him. I was wrong. And now he's back, more dangerous than ever. Eva leaned closer, brushing hair from his forehead. We'll deal with him together. Dominic caught her wrist gently. You believe that? Even after everything, especially after everything, their eyes locked. 1,000 unspoken words passed between them. Pain, hope, and something deeper, undeniable and fierce. Dominic swallowed hard. Do you want to know why Neela told you to ask me about the river? Eva nodded. When I was 16, my father took me there. It was just us. No warriors, no advisors. He said every Crescent Fong Alpha needed to face the river alone. Why? Dominic smiled faintly. Because the river remembers. Eva frowned. My father explained that the water carried the memories of our ancestors. If you were quiet, if you listened, it would whisper truths you needed to hear, things you couldn't run from. And did it, Shesk? He nodded slowly. It told me I wasn't ready. Eva blinked. That's not very reassuring. It told me I wasn't ready because I hadn't found my purpose, my reason for leading. I had strength. I had blood, but no direction. And now, she asked quietly. I think I know my reason now. His gaze locked on hers. It's you. The words hit her like a tidal wave. She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. Dominic went on. I've led out of duty. I've fought out of necessity. But when you came into my life, Eva, everything changed. You reminded me why I care, why I fight, why this pack matters. It's not just legacy. It's life and love. Eva's throat tightened. She stood abruptly, needing space, needing air. But his voice followed her. I know it's sudden. I know you've been through hell, but I need you to hear me. I'm not saying this is your alpha. I'm saying this is your mate. She froze. What did you say? Dominic sat up. Pain forgotten. I feel it, Eva, the bond, the pull. I didn't understand it at first, but it's been growing ever since the night of the attack. Eva's heart pounded. That's not possible. You would have felt it the moment we touched. I think it was buried, he said, blocked by the magic in the Crescent Fong border. Or maybe because I wasn't ready. Eva's voice was barely a whisper. And now I am. She turned slowly, meeting his eyes. I don't know what I feel, she admitted. I've spent so long running, fighting. I don't know how to be anything else. Dominic reached out. You don't have to be anything else. Just be. Tears burned behind her eyes. I'm scared. So am I, but I trust you, she said. His lips parted, stunned. I trust us, she added, and in that moment the tension between them cracked. Dominic pulled her gently into his arms, ignoring the ache in his body. Their lips met softly at first, then with a hunger born of pain, hope, and everything they hadn't dared to say before. It was not just a kiss. It was a vow. And for the first time in a long time, Eva felt like she had a place, a home, not in stone walls or power, but in him. Far from the Crescent Fong lands in the deepest Holofong sanctuary, Kieran stood before a dark mirror. His wound still bled, but his eyes burned with rage. They grow stronger, came a voice from the mirror, cold, inhuman. I know, Kieran growled. The girl, she has power I didn't expect. She is the key, the voice said. She must not be allowed to ascend. She won't, Kieran swore. I'll kill her myself. The voice hissed. No, that time is past. You failed once already. Kieran stiffened. You will obey, the voice commanded. You will deliver her alive before the moon turns blood red. Kieran clenched his fists, fury and fear battling behind his eyes. Yes, he said finally. As you command. Back in Crescent Fong territory, Eva awoke that night to a strange sensation. Not pain, not fear, but loss. She rose from the bed and stepped to the window, staring at the moon. It was no longer silver. It was turning red and deep in her bones. She knew something ancient had awakened, and time was running out. Chapter 15, The Blood Moon Prophecy. The red moon bled across the night sky like a warning written in fire. Eva stood beneath it, her skin prickling with dread as an unnatural stillness blanketed the forest around Crescent Fong. The usual nighttime sounds, crickets, rustling leaves, distant howls had all fallen silent. Even the wind refused to blow. She turned away from the window, her heart hammering. Dominic, she said urgently, shaking his shoulder. Wake up, he groaned, still healing from his wounds. Eva, what is it? Look at the moon. He pushed himself up, wincing. When his eyes found the sky outside, he stilled. The color drained from his face. It's too early. The blood moon isn't due for another season. I think it's been accelerated or summoned. Dominic threw the covers off and swung his legs over the bed, teeth clenched. Get Nyla now. Nyla's face paled the moment she saw the moon. I've only seen it once before, she whispered. Years ago, during the uprising that nearly tore the northern claw apart, Eva frowned. What does it mean? Nyla's fingers tightened around her satchel. It's a harbinger. A blood moon doesn't just appear. It responds to what? Dominic's voice was grim. Dark magic? Ancient forces. The kind we thought were buried centuries ago. Nyla nodded. The blood moon awakens. Prophecy. If it's here now, it means someone has called upon something forbidden, something powerful. Eva's skin prickled. Could it be Kieran? I wouldn't be surprised, Dominic said. He's desperate and reckless. Nyla opened a thick leather-bound book, flipping through brittle pages until she found what she was looking for. There's a passage, she said. One passed down from years older than this pack. She read aloud. When the moon weeps crimson and shadows rise in smoke, the blood of a queen shall awaken the oath that broke. A heart once buried shall rise from the dust, and the chosen of flame must decide who to trust. Eva's breath caught. The blood of a queen? Nyla's eyes met hers. You know, Eva whispered. That can't be. Dominic looked between them. What do you mean? Nyla spoke slowly. Eva was born during a lunar eclipse. Her records were altered, hidden, but there's always been talk, whispers among the elders, that a girl born of both warrior and witch blood would rise to either save or destroy the Alphas. "I'm not a witch," Eva said firmly. "No, but your mother was," Nyla said. "She was one of us before she disappeared." Eva's knees buckled and she sat down hard on a bench. Dominic moved toward her. "Eva." She looked up at him, eyes wide with disbelief. "Why didn't anyone tell me?" "Because they were afraid," Neela said softly. "Afraid of what you might become? Of what choices you'd face?" Eva wrapped her arms around herself, trying to make sense of everything. "I'm just a warrior. I never asked for any of this." Dominic knelt beside her. "Prophecies don't care what we ask for, but you're not alone. You have me. You have this pack. But what if I'm the one who destroys everything?" she whispered. Dominic cupped her face in his hands. "Then we destroy it together and rebuild it better." "Eva, I trust you. No prophecy, no magic, no bloodline will change that." Nyla closed the book and stood. "We don't have much time. The blood moon means the veil is thinning. Kieran could strike any night now. Maybe even tonight." Eva stood, her voice steady despite the turmoil inside. "Then we fight, but we do it on our terms." Dominic nodded, agreed. That night, Eva stood before the pack. For the first time, she wasn't in armor. She wore simple black pants, a high-collared tunic, and her hair loose down her back. Power radiated from her. Not the kind of brute strength that came from years of battle, but a deeper kind, a quiet certainty. "My name is Eva Kalin," she said, voice ringing out across the courtyard. "Some of you know me, most of you don't. I came here to fight, to serve. But I've learned something tonight, something that changes everything." Wolves leaned forward, listening closely. "I'm the daughter of a warrior and a witch," Eva said boldly. "I'm the flame the prophecy spoke of. And I choose to stand with you. Not as a weapon, not as a queen, but as your protector." A murmur rippled through the crowd. "If Kieran wants power, let him come for it. He'll find a pack-ready touty on their feet rather than kneel." Roars of agreement thundered across the courtyard. Dominic stepped up beside her. "I stand with her as your alpha, as her mate. Crescent Fong will not fall." The two of them stood together under the bleeding moon side by side. And for the first time, the pack didn't just see a warrior and a leader. They saw hope. Later that night, while others slept and trained in rotating shifts, Eva couldn't sleep. She wandered the edge of the Crescent Fong border, following the path she'd taken the first time she stumbled into their territory. She found the place where the warding stones hummed, faint pulses of energy moving through the air. She knelt, placing her palm against one. Suddenly, the wind stilled, and a voice, low, feminine, and ancient, whispered in her mind. "Daughter of dusk." "The hour draws near." Eva's breath. "Pass, and the flame will protect. Fail, and all will burn." "Who are you?" she whispered. But the wind had already returned. The voice was gone, far away in a ruined temple hidden deep within the Holofong territory. Kieran stood before a black altar. Blood ran down his arms and pulled in the grooves of carved stone. Behind him, cloaked figures chanted. The mirror on the altar rippled, then cleared, revealing Eva. His eyes narrowed. "She knows now. She's awakening," the voice from the mirror replied. "Then the final seal must be broken." "Offer the life of the Flameborn. I will bring her," Kieran swore. "Even if I have to rip her soul from Dominic's arms." Lightning cracked the sky outside the temple and the ground trembled. The war had already begun. Chapter 16, The Betrayer Within. The war drums began, not with thunder or steel, but with betrayal whispered in the shadows. Eva woke at dawn with a headache pounding between her temples and a faint taste of copper on her tongue. She sat up in her cot. The quiet of the pack house unusually sharp. Something was wrong. She was about to rise when the door burst open. "Eva." Nyla's voice was tight with urgency. "We have a problem." Eva swung her legs off the bed. "What happened?" "Someone sabotaged the eastern barrier stones. The protective runes have been corrupted. Twisted into something else entirely." Eva stood. "Kieran, maybe?" Butte had help from the inside. Eva's heart skipped. "You're saying there's a traitor?" Neela nodded gravely. "Someone with intimate knowledge of our defenses." Dominic stood in the war room when Eva entered, his eyes already blazing. They struck just before sunrise. A small party of rogues slipped through the eastern border. "We lost 3 scouts before they were driven off," his beta Kale growled. "They were testing our perimeter. It wasn't a real attack. It was a distraction. Someone wanted us to look one way while they slithered in another." "Who was on Eastern Patrol last night?" Eva asked. Silence. Then Kale spoke reluctantly. Ash. Eva's stomach twisted. That can't be right. Dominic looked at her. You trust him. She hesitated. He's quiet. Sure, keeps to himself. But he saved me on more than one mission. He's not a traitor. He's also the only one who could have accessed the rune seals without triggering the alarm, Nyla said. The runas recognize intent. They wouldn't let just anyone near them without warning the wardens. We need to talk to him, Dominic said. Now, Ash didn't run. He stood in the training field as the sun climbed the sky, sword strapped across his back, his dark eyes steady. When Dominic and Eva approached, he didn't flinch. You think it's me? He said before they could speak. We want to hear your side, Eva said. Ash's jaw clenched. I'm not the one betraying this pack. Then who is? Dominic Haskett. Ash glanced around the field, then lowered his voice. You're looking in the wrong direction. I saw someone slip out last night. Someone wearing Acrocent Fong cloak. Ava's brow furrowed. Who? Ash looked straight at their... Kale. What? I followed him past the warding line. He met with someone in the forest, a cloaked figure. They spoke in low voices. I didn't get close enough to hear, but the body language was hostile. Then Kale returned. 15 minutes later, the barrier was breached. Dominic's expression darkened. That doesn't make sense. Kale's been by my side for years. Ash stepped forward. Exactly. No one would ever suspect him. Nyla arrived moments later, breathless. There's something else. The corruption in the rune circle. It bears the mark of wolf blood and command, meaning it had to be someone high in the hierarchy. Dominic stared past them, his jaw tight. Eva touched his arm. We need to confront him. No, Dominic said quietly. We need to watch him. Kale stood in the strategy tent, poring over maps. When Eva approached alone, she forced calm into her voice. Everything ready for tonight's rotations? He nodded without looking up. I've reinforced the west line and tripled guards near the caves. Good, Eva said, watching him carefully. We can't afford surprises. Agreed, he replied too smoothly. She almost turned to leave, but then she noticed something. On the edge of the map was a sigil drawn in ink, partially irised, a small circle within a crescent. Not a crescent Fong mark, but a hollow Fong one. Eva's heart leapt. She reached forward, finger tracing the symbol. What's this? Kale's eyes darted toward it just for a second, but it was enough. A mistake, he said. Old map from a raid. Eva met his gaze. You've been to Holofong recently? Not since the last war, he said. Lie. Eva forced a smile. Right. Of course. She left without confrontation, but her mind raced. It was Kale, and worse, he was smart, careful, playing the long game. That night, Eva, Dominic, Ash, and Nyla gathered in secret in the war room. We don't have proof, Dominic said. Only suspicions. We have enough to justify keeping him out of the next operations, Eva said. We can't risk sabotage. Nyla leaned forward. There's another way. Everyone looked at her. I have a truth serum. Mild but effective. If we can get Kale alone, we can confirm everything before he even realizes it. Dominic shook his head. He's too careful. He wouldn't accept a drink from anyone unless it's in public. Eva looked up. Then let's use that. A toast, public. Let him lower his guard. The next night, Eva stood in front of the pack during the full moon gathering, lifting a goblet. To our warriors, to Crescent Fong, and to the bonds we trust. Cheers rang through the crowd. Kale lifted his goblet as well, stepping toward her, to loyalty. They clinked their cups. Kale drank, and Eva watched. 10 seconds passed, then 20. Kale's smile remained, but his body stiffened just slightly. Nyla whispered beside her, It's working. Dominic stepped forward. Kale, I'd like to ask you something. Do you serve this pack? Kale chuckled. Of course. Do you serve only this pack? There was a pause, and then Kale's hand twitched. No, he said. Silence fell. Someone gasped. Kale blinked, confused. Realization dawned in his eyes, and his expression twisted into rage. You. Dominic moved fast. Kale shifted instantly, bones snapping as his wolf burst forth. A massive silver beast with dark stripes across his flanks. He lunged. Dominic met him in midair with a roar. Shifting so fast, the crowd barely registered the blur of fur and claws. The two alphas collided, teeth sinking into flesh, snarls splitting the air. Eva surged forward, sword drawn, not to interfere, but to protect the pack if things went wrong. Kale was fast, but Dominic was fury incarnate. Their fight was brutal, primal. Dust rose, blood flew. Kale rad claws across Dominic's flank, But Dominic sank his teeth into Cale's neck and slammed him down, pinned, panting. Dominic shifted back, chest heaving, blood staining his bare torso. "You were my brother," he said. Cale, still gasping, forced out the words. "They promised freedom, a future without bloodlines, without lies. You chose to burn us for your idea of peace," Dominic said. "You betrayed your home." Cale didn't respond. Dominic turned to the pack. "Bind him. He will face judgment." Two warriors stepped forward. Eva watched Cale as they dragged him away. For a moment, she saw something flicker in his eyes. Not regret, but fear. And it wasn't for himself. It was for something coming. Later, in the quiet of her room, Eva stared at the moon again, pale now, silent. The traitor had been rooted out. But the danger had only begun. She could feel it. The storm hadn't passed. It was just gathering, and this time it would strike with claws of prophecy and fire. Chapter 17. The Alpha's Vow. The silence after betrayal was heavier than war. The Crescent Fong pack mourned not just the loss of trust, but the slow unraveling of their foundation. And in the center of it all stood Dominic, alpha by birthright, leader by battle, now burdened by the betrayal of his closest friend. Eva stood with him at dawn on the cliffs overlooking the valley. The rising sun bathed his skin in amber light, but there was no warmth in his expression. He was like a brother, Hemmermerd. I would have died for him once. Eva didn't say anything. There was nothing to say. She placed a hand on his arm instead. A silent anchor to the present. Dominic turned to face her. His jaw was tight, but his voice steady. "We can't delay any longer. Kieran will come soon. Cale's betrayal was only the opening act. The real war is knocking." Eva nodded. "Then we answer it." But even as she said the words are not twisted in her chest, because there was something else too. Something she hadn't told him, not yet. The trial was held in the Moonstone Circle, a sacred place where only truth could be spoken. Cale stood bound in iron chains etched with ancient runes. Dominic sat at the head of the circle, flanked by the Council of Elders and Beta Nila. The rest of the pack watched from behind the boundary stones. Eva watched Cale closely, searching for the man she once thought loyal. He didn't look broken. If anything, he looked resolute. Dominic stood. "Cale of Crescent Fong, you are charged with high treason, conspiracy with Holofong, sabotage of our wardings, and attempted assassination. Do you deny these charges?" Cale didn't flinch. "No." A ripple of shock moved through the crowd. "Then why?" Dominic asked. "Why betray everything we've built?" Cale's eyes burned. "Because the system is broken. You think you're a leader, Dominic. You're a tyrant wearing your father's crown." Gasps echoed. Dominic's jaw twitched, but he remained composed. "You could have challenged me. There are ways within our laws. You would have crushed me. The council worships you, the pack fears you. That's not leadership," Dominic replied. "That's survival. And I never asked for worship. Only loyalty." Cale scoffed. "Loyalty built on fear is not loyalty at all. Then you chose the cowards who hide behind shadows. I chose a new world." Cale hissed, one not ruled by fated bonds and archaic laws. "You think Kieran wants freedom? He wants domination, enslavement. He'll lose your ideals as kindling for his fire." Cale looked him straight in the eye. "Then we'll burn it all," the council began murmuring. One of the elders stood. "The punishment for treason, ice exile, or death." Dominic raised a hand. "No, he will be imprisoned until the war ends. After that, the pack will decide his fate." Cale sneered. "Mercy, Dominic, or guilt?" Dominic didn't reply. He only turned and walked away. That night, the pack gathered in a solemn ceremony to reforge the Eastern Barrier. Eva stood beside Dominic as Nyla performed the incantation, binding new protective magic into the stone circle. With each word, the runes glowed brighter and a sense of calm returned to the earth, but it was only a momentary peace. After the ritual, Dominic pulled Eva aside into the strategy tent. Maps littered Thetable. Red markers covered the Holofong border. "It's time," he said. "We strike first," Eva blinked. "You want to attack them?" "No more waiting. We've played defense long enough." Cale gave Kieran everything he needed. "Our schedules, our blind spots, our terrain. If we wait for them to make a move, we'll lose." Eva crossed her arms. "And what about the alliance with Silver Moon?" "They still haven't responded to our call." Dominic's jaw tensed. "Then we go without them." Eva stepped closer. "You're not thinking straight. I know Cale hurt you, but don't let that drive you into recklessness." Dominic looked at her, his eyes softer now. "It's not about Cale, it's about the future. I won't let Crescent Fong fall. Not while I breathe, Eva sighed. Then let's be smart. Let me scout ahead. I'll take Ash and Toothers. We need intelligence before we launch anything. Dominic hesitated, then nodded. 3 days, then we move. Ava led the small scouting party through dense forest under moonlight. Ash flanked her left while 2 younger wolves, Syria and Jalin, followed silently behind. They crossed into Hawthorne territory under heavy glamour spells. The trees here felt colder, the air thicker. They reached a ridge just above a small clearing. What they saw made Eva's blood run cold. A gathering, hundreds of wolves, and in the center, Kieran. He stood tall, armored in black, his eyes glowing with golden fire. Around him were symbols of war, siege weapons, crates of enchanted arrows, blood runes freshly painted on the grass, and Kale's symbol scratched into the side of every banner. Eva watched as Kieran raised a goblet, shouting to the horde. We take them at full moon. Crescent Fong will fall and its alpha will kneel. The crowd erupted. Eva turned to Ash. We have to get back now. They returned breathless, bodies scratched from thorns and terrain, minds spinning with what they'd seen. Dominic met them at the gate. They're coming, Eva said, in 2 nights. Full moon, Dominic nodded. Then so be it. He turned to the warriors gathered behind him. We've been hunted, betrayed, marked for death. But we are wolves of Crescent Fong. Our strength is not in numbers. It's in heart, in blood, in the vow we make to each other. He raised his hand. I swear by the moon and my ancestors, I will not let them destroy what we've built. We stand together. The crowd roared. Eva watched him. His fire, his loyalty, his pain. And she knew in that moment he would die for them all. But she wouldn't let that happen. She'd stand by him. And if fate demanded blood, then she'd give it. Chapter 18, Blood Moon Siege. The full moon rose like a blade over the treetops. Sharp, cold, and glistening with promise. Eva stood atop the eastern rampart of Crescent Fong Stone Fortress. Eyes locked on the forest where shadows stirred. In the distance, war drums thudded like the heartbeat of a beast waiting to devour. She gripped the hilt off her silver dagger tighter. Beside her, Ash adjusted the bow strapped across his back, his expression unreadable. The pack's warriors lined the ramparts, armed and alert, their forms tense with anticipation. Behind them, the non-combatants were hidden deep within the mountain caves, protected, warded, but vulnerable should the line fall. Dominic stood at the heart of the fortress, his black armor gleaming in the moonlight, a silver crescent etched over his chest plate. He was the storm before the thunder. He looked up as Eva descended the steps. They're circling, she reported, north and east. They're waiting for the moon to reach its peak. Dominic nodded. Let them wait. They'll find no fear here. She studied him for a long beat. You're too calm. He cracked Ethan's smile. Because I've already accepted what I must do. Eva's chest tightened. What does that mean? It means I'm ready to die if I must. His voice was soft but unwavering. For the pack, for you. Don't say that. Her voice trembled. Don't even think it. I have to if I don't make it. You will, she snapped. You don't get to give up before the fight even begins. His eyes searched hers. I'm not giving up. I'm preparing you for reality. Eva grabbed his hand. No, here's the reality. You survive. We survive together or not at all. For a moment, the chaos paused. The fear, the drums, the howling wind, it all vanished. It was just them. He leaned forward, brushing a kiss to her forehead. Then fight with me until the last breath. The first arrow came at midnight. It whistled through the air and buried itself into the wooden watchtower with a hiss of dark magic. Seconds later, the forest exploded with movement. Howls, snarls, and a heavy thud of paws pounding earth. Hawthorne had arrived. Dominic raised his blade to the sky. Hold the line. War broke over Crescent Fong like a wave crashing against stone. Eva darted along the battlements, flinging wards into the air. Her magic danced in golden arcs, forming shields and barriers that shimmered under the moonlight. Ash fired arrows into the advancing wolves, each shot deadly and precise. Below, Dominic led the front line, blade flashing as he carved through enemy ranks. His wolf, massive and silvery, tore through beasts with ruthless efficiency. But the enemy didn't stop. For every wolf they felled, 2 more rose behind them. Kale appeared in the chaos, wearing armor black as pitch, the Hawthorne insignia etched into his shoulder. He roared Dominic's name like a challenge and charged. Dominic met him head-on, swords clashing with a sound like thunder. Traitor. Dominic snarled, teeth bared. You're blind, Kale spat. You protect a broken world. Their blades danced, metal screaming as they struck again and again. Around them, Crescent Fong and Holofong warriors clashed in a whirlwind of blood and fire. Eva leapt down to join the fight just as Ash was cornered by 2 Holofong assassins. She threw a pulse of magic, blasting them back, then pulled Ash to his feet. "You good?" He nodded, panting. "Thanks. We hold the gate no matter what." She turned, and that's when she saw him, Kieran. He strode through the battlefield like a god of war, untouched by the chaos around him. His armor shimmered with dark enchantment, and in his hand was a massive axe crackling with blood magic. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. Their eyes locked across the chaos. And Eva knew he was coming for her. Dominic drove his sword through Kale's shoulder, pinning him to the earth. Kale gasped, blood bubbling from his lips. "Your war ends here," Dominic growled. Kale smirked, even in pain. "You think it's about me? You're still so blind, Dominic. The Alpha War isn't about politics. It's about bloodlines, Eva's blood." Dominic froze. "What?" Kale coughed. "You didn't know? Kieran's another for your land. He's here for her. She's the true alpha-blooded heir. The prophecy was never about you." Rage erupted in Dominic's chest, but before he could demand more, a blast of dark energy knocked him back. Kieran had reached the inner courtyard, and he was heading straight for Eva. Eva felt the air thicken as Kieran approached. The world dimmed, and the magic in her blood shivered. "Eva Morwyn," he said, his voice like velvet and venom, born of moonfire, last of the true alpha line. She raised her dagger. "I'm not yours." "No," he agreed. "But you will be." He lunged. They clashed, light and dark, fate and fury. Eva poured her power into every strike, golden energy crackling around her. Kieran's dark axe met her magic with brutal force, sending shockwaves through the ground. "You can't stop what's already begun," he growled. "You're the key. Your blood will break the chains." She gritted her teeth. "I break nothing for you." He knocked her back with a burst of energy. She hit the ground hard, pain flaring in her ribs. Dominic leapt between them. Silver blade raised. "Stay away from her," Kieran sneered. "Ah, the lovesick alpha." Dominic struck and they battled like titans. But Kieran's strength was unnatural, bolstered by forbidden magic and a hunger for power. He knocked Dominic aside with a brutal blow, sending him sprawling. "Now," Kieran whispered, raising his axe over Eva, "let prophecy be fulfilled." But Eva was ready. She raised both hands, her magic blazing. "Then let it end with me." She unleashed a blast of pure light, striking Kieran square in the chest. He screamed as the magic tore through him, unraveling the dark spells that sustained him. He staggered. Dominic, rising behind him, seized the moment. With a final roar, he drove his blade through Kieran's heart. The Holofong Alpha collapsed, darkness bleeding from his veins. The battlefield stilled, and Crescent Fong stood victorious. Later, in the pale dawn, the survivors gathered. Kale, wounded and chained, was led away in silence. Ash mourned the fallen, his face stoic. Dominic stood beside Eva at the summit of the fortress, overlooking the land they'd saved. "You saved me," he said softly. Eva leaned her head against his shoulder. "No, we saved each other." He looked down at her, eyes soft. "I meant what I said before. I die for you?" She smiled faintly. "Good thing you didn't." He brushed his fingers along her jaw. "I was yours before I even knew it." And under the waning moon, with blood still fresh in the earth and the ashes of war behind them, they sealed their vow with lips, with soul, with love stronger than prophecy. Chapter 19, Rebuilding the Pack. The dawn after the Blood Moon siege was different. Not just brighter, but heavier, filled with the weight of ashes and promise. Eva stood in the center of the battle-worn courtyard, surrounded by broken stones, shattered arrows, and the deep scent of scorched earth. But she wasn't alone. Crescent Fong had survived. All around her, pack members moved like quiet ghosts, gathering the fallen, tending to the wounded, and beginning the slow work of rebuilding not just the fortress, but themselves. Ash limped up the hill from the eastern wall, his arm in a sling and a nasty gash above his brow. Yet he grinned when he saw Eva. "You look like you took on a god," he teased. She smirked, brushing back strands of hair matted with blood and sweat. "Feels like I did." He glanced at the pile of weapons beside her. "You're forging again." "Sharpening," she said. "Can't afford dull blades." "Not anymore." He lowered himself beside her with a groan. "You think they'll come back?" Eva nodded. "Evil always tries, but we'll be ready next time." The gate creaked open behind them and a voice called out. "Rebuilding begins at the roots." Eva turned to find Dominic striding toward them, flanked by two warriors carrying wood planks and rolls of hide. He was still bruised but unbowed, his alpha aura stronger than ever. "We start with the eastern wall," he said. "Then the food stores. We lost a lot of reserves to fire." Ash stood. "I'll get the hunting teams organized." "Do that and Ash." Dominic paused. "You're Beta now." She smiled. "You showed me I was never lost." And then he kissed her deep, reverent, sealing the bond that had begun not on a battlefield or throne, but in the quiet belief that love could rewrite fate. Later that night, as the pack celebrated with feast and dance, Eva wandered the rebuilt eastern wall, the place where she'd first challenged Dominic, blades drawn and hearts guarded. He joined her as he always did. "No crown," she said softly, running her fingers along the stone. "No throne, never needed them," he replied. "You wear your power in your spine in the way you stand when the world tries to crush you." She leaned against him. "Used to think strength was being alone, being feared." He kissed her temple. "It's knowing when to let someone in." They stood in silence for a while, listening to laughter rise from the courtyard below, cubs chasing fireflies, elders telling stories, mates sharing quiet smiles. Eva glanced up at the moon. "I still feel it, you know," she whispered. "The magic, the prophecy. It's like the wind itself hums my name." Dominic looked at her solemn. "What do you think it means?" "I think I was meant to survive, to lead, but not to rule alone." She turned to him, her voice low and sure. "We won't be the last to rise from ashes. There are others, wolves like me, abandoned, broken, hiding their strength because the world says it's dangerous." Dominic nodded. "Then we'll find them." Eva smiled. "We'll give them a home." Months later, the Crescent Fong territory had grown. Not by conquest, but by invitation. Wolves from shattered packs, lone rogues, and even hybrids had come. Drawn by whispers of an Alpha and Luna who ruled without fear, who welcomed warriors and healers, outcasts and dreamers alike. Eva led the patrols now, her strength legendary. She trained a new generation of she-wolves to fight, not just with claws, but with strategy, with confidence, with heart. One of them, a bright-eyed girl named Nia, raced beside her during a morning run. Luna Nia gasped out of breath. "Did you really fight the Holofong Alpha with a broken blade?" Eva grinned. "I did more than that. I made him regret every breath he took." Nia laughed, then grew quiet. "Do you think I'll ever be as strong as you?" Eva stopped and knelt before her. "You already are," she said. "Strength isn't in muscle. It's in what you survive, what you choose." Nia nodded, eyes shining. "I want to be like you." "No," Eva said softly. "Be better." That evening, as she returned to the fortress, Eva found Dominic waiting at the gates. "You look happy," he said. "I am," she replied. "For once, I am." He reached for her hand. "There's one more thing." He led her inside down a hallway newly restored. At the end, a wooden door opened to a large room. Walls lined with shelves, scrolls, blades, artifacts, a new library, a legacy. She turned slowly. "What is this?" "Our story," he said. "Our history for those who come after." Eva's breath caught in her throat. She walked to the nearest shelf where a leather-bound book sat open. Its title was etched in gold, The Alpha-Born, Rise of the Luna. She looked over her shoulder, eyes wet. "You did this for me." Dominic crossed the room and placed a hand on her stomach. "For us?" Her heart skipped. "Eva," he said, voice thick with emotion, "you're not just Luna. You're the future. Our future." Tears spilled down her cheeks as she wrapped her arms around him. And in that quiet, sacred moment, no battle, no prophecy, no war. They simply held each other. Not Alpha and Luna, just Eva and Dominic. Two wolves who chose love and built a kingdom from it. The end. If this story stirred your heart or made you hell a little inside, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop a comment below. Who was your favorite character and what would you love to listen to next? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this story with another shifter romance.